expert and can answer so many questions. And if you're having an issue, again, she would be the appropriate person to contact regarding that. And I have asked Officer Porter to join us today because he actually is trained in defensive tactics, and he can offer some pretty good advice about personal safety and defense. I know there were some questions around tools and things. So Officer Porter, I'll let you go ahead and talk a little bit about personal safety.
Oh, excuse me, do you?
Yeah, the number one thing I like to talk about when I talk about personal safety is not so much knowing how to. Yep.
I think we had a question before you began.
Okay. Do we have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it's Jerry. So, are you sharing your slides?
Yes. Are you not able to see those?
I can. I cannot see it. Do you click the share screen to share the screen? Can you do it again?
There it is.
Is anybody else able to see the screen or no?
No.
Okay.
No. No, we cannot see it.
No.
Okay, let me join
Screen.
out. Let me try again.
And there's also another question I want to ask. 所以我想问他们说，你们需要翻译吗？就是每张投影片，像上次他们那个中毒的中心他们来的那个时候，我可以每张翻译一下。
我不需要，我觉得
就是最后面的时候，对啊，就是每张 slide 翻译一下。你们有人需要吗？你们要跟我讲，不然就让他们自己讲就可以了。
现在不需要吧
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Are you able to share the screen?
Yeah, I will try it one more time. For some reason, that doesn't seem to be working very well. One of the drawbacks, I guess, of doing virtual meetings is sometimes things don't cooperate quite like they should.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. I think it will work. Just take time.
Hey, Ruby, are they the same slides that you sent me?
They are.
Let me see if I can pull them up.
Yeah, I'm doing share screen, but it just doesn't seem to.
Worked.
Yes. Great.
There you go.
Now is it showing?
Yes.
Yes.
I see it.
Okay. All right. Is it still showing?
Yes.
We're in
Yeah.
business. Okay, sorry about that. So again, I'll just hold that up there for just a moment so you're able to see everybody that's on the call other than Stephanie Martinez today. And then Officer Porter, I'll let you go ahead and speak now about personal safety.
Yeah. If there's any questions, just let me know. When we teach RAD, rape aggression defense, is one of the classes that I taught as a nationwide program. The biggest thing that they preach is prevention. So much of the class is about preventing yourself from getting into situations that could become dangerous. And the number one factor is being aware of your surroundings, keeping your eyes up, keeping your focus around you, being aware of what's going on, seeing what possible dangers lie ahead and avoiding those. If you can prevent yourself from getting in the situation, you don't need any special tactics or any special skills to fight off an aggressor. So just being aware, avoiding dark alleys, staying where it's well populated, staying where it's lit, being being around other people and having as many witnesses surrounding you as possible is always a good idea. So not taking a shortcut, not going through parking lots that are empty, but staying where the people are. Because if you have witnesses, potential aggressors are going to avoid where there are witnesses. And the more witnesses you have around you, usually the safer you are. And there is a class, you can look up RAD, Rape Aggression Defense, online, and they teach classes all over the country. It's usually very inexpensive, if not free. But there's a lot of classes all over the place, and that's the specific skill set that I was trained in. And it's a good organization, and they teach it all over the place the same way. It's the same techniques, nationwide, international. And again, their big preach is prevention. But if in case there is a situation where you need to use some techniques to fight off an attacker, they provide some real good basic techniques. And they have multiple levels. There's basic, advanced, OC. So if you wanted to carry a little can of mace, there's there's a learning curve to using mace. There's some potential blowbacks, contamination of yourself. So there is a class on how to use OC the right way, as well as keychain self-defense, and different versions of RAD. It's a really good class, and I'd like to bring it back here, bring it to Bellevue, and teach it somewhere in this area. But I know there are organizations in the area that do teach that class. And it's really good stuff. So yeah, the big takeaway is just be aware of your surroundings. If something looks unusual, avoid it. And if you can avoid the situation, that way you don't actually get yourself in a situation where you need to use defense techniques. But just kind of being aware is the number one thing that I can take away, and be around other people. Walk with a partner, let people know where you are, where you're going to go, when you're going to get there. That way they can look out for you and be around.
Thank you, Officer Porter. And just to piggyback on that a little bit, there are, as I've listed on the slides there, there are a few different departments that do offer that RAD class. University of Seattle, Snoqualmie, Duval, and I'm sure there's several others. So you could reach out if you were interested in getting signed up. I believe it's free or a very, very minimal charge to take those classes.
Usually you just pay for the paperwork, the folder and the take-home manual, and that's it.
And just some other things. So, a lot of people are on their cell phones constantly. So if you're walking down a sidewalk or in a parking lot, it's best just not to be on your phone. Just be, like Officer Porter said, be aware of your surroundings, pay attention to what's going on. We're not asking you to be paranoid, but just be aware. So eyes open, if you see something that doesn't look quite right, maybe go back into the store and wait for an opportunity where the person's gone, or you can walk out with another person. So going in pairs is always a good idea. And I also wanted to touch on, if you're shopping, just be aware to not leave your purse or belongings in your shopping cart and walk away to go over and get your produce or something else, because unfortunately there are people that will take advantage and either reach in your purse and grab a wallet or grab your whole purse. So try to keep it zipped, closed, and on your shoulder or in your hand, not alone in the shopping carts. And then just in terms of suspicious people, you might ask, well, what makes somebody suspicious? I believe that's on one of my slides. It might be next here. So suspicious people are, it is kind of an individual thing, but it's something that doesn't seem right, that makes you not feel comfortable or safe. And it doesn't appear to be what should be happening in that area. So if you, for instance, if you saw somebody looking into a car and they were looking around trying to see who was around them, that's what we would consider suspicious activity. And we would want you to report that to the police. There's various ways now that you can report things. If it's happening at that moment, we would ask that you dial 911. That's the quickest way to get a response. You can always use 911 even if it's not in progress. Our dispatchers are really great about deciding when you call how to delegate those calls. They might put you on hold. They might move you down if there's other in progress activity going on. But your call is important and they will get to you depending on the nature of your call. You can also report things through My Bellevue app or through our website if it's not in progress, something that has occurred after the case. So as much information when you do decide to call 911 that you can provide is very helpful. So if you have a description of the person, the clothing that they're wearing, if it's not too dark, if you can describe their build, how tall they are, anything that you can provide the dispatchers really helps. So if we send an officer out, they know exactly what they're looking for. White male wearing a red baseball cap, has a black backpack, seemed really tall, maybe taller than 5'9". Those are all very helpful and descriptive facts. And that just really helps. So when our officers pull into the parking lot and they're looking for this person, they can really hone in on exactly what it is they're looking for. We would never ask you to confront anyone. Always best to just call 911, let our officers talk to them and figure out what's going on, because we sure don't want to put you in harm's way or have you get injured in any sense. That's just not necessary. Along with the description of the person, if you can just be very descriptive about what it is you're seeing. Here's what this person is doing. They're looking into cars. They're parked on a dark alley. They have a backpack. Whatever it is their action is doing, try to be very specific about what makes them suspicious. I know there were some questions on the initial emails about just mail and package thefts, which tend to be kind of on the rise right now, unfortunately, with COVID and people staying home and unemployment. There has been an uptick in these types of crimes. So here's some tips that I've offered here on this slide, just about picking up your mail. Don't let it sit in your box. Check it daily. Try, if you can, deposit your mail, your outgoing mail, take it to the post office or in some form where you know it's not just sitting in a box outside of your house. There's a lot of tips now where you can sign up with UPS, even your postal service, which will alert you when you have a package being delivered, and you can kind of keep track. So I'm going to be home during this time. I'm expecting a package at 2 p.m. You know, you can keep track of it or ask your neighbor maybe to grab your package off of your porch. And this is where knowing your community and having those relationships with your neighbors really does come in handy. Very important. So block watches, similarly, you know, if you know who your neighbors are and you can communicate, I'm going to be gone tomorrow, I have a package coming, that can be very helpful to have them look out for that package. Don't ever send cash in the mail. That's absolutely not trackable. And it's just a criminal's best day to be able to find an envelope with a bunch of cash in it. So try to use either a cashier's check, a money order, or some way where you can actually put a stop payment on that. Again, reporting theft. So if you do have mail stolen or a package that's stolen, even if it's very minimal and you think it's not a big deal, we want to know about it. Because if you're not reporting these thefts and crimes that are occurring, we have no idea the crime and activity that's going on in your neighborhood. Therefore, it's hard for us to apply resources and put emphasis on areas if we have no idea that this is occurring. So we would ask that even if it's a minimal thing that was stolen, that you do report that to the police department so we can keep that as part of our stats. And of course, follow up too. Oftentimes we'll arrest somebody and maybe they have a bag of mail. We would sure like to get you back your package or your mail. And if it's reported, that's much easier to do. If there's questions as I'm going through these slides, you can feel free to ask, but we will have an opportunity at the end also just for questions and answers.
So can I ask a question now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Neighborhood crime. There was recently a break-in in our neighborhood, and a neighbor captured images of the intruder. So I'm wondering if that happens to us, what do we do? Report it and we'll send the video clip, or how is that handled?
Very good question. Yes, definitely report it. Any type of crime, whether your house is burglarized, if your car is prowled, if you have mail stolen, these are all crimes that we want to know about. We want you to report it. If you report it online, there's actually a link there. If you have a Ring camera or any type of surveillance system and you have some footage there that you'd like to provide for us that shows the actual criminal, then you can slide that right onto the app there or the website to provide that video. And that's very helpful. So we're actually making a lot of arrests due to this very fact of being able to have good video on these types of crimes.
Thank you. And a related question is how to report a road rage. Again, if you capture something in your dash camera.
Officer Porter, would you like to address that?
Yeah. Call that in as promptly as possible. We have traffic units that drive around on motorcycles, and we have collision investigators in unmarked cars as well as patrol. And if you have any images saved on a dash cam of a road rage incident, we would love to see that. And then you can call it in and have an officer meet with you, and we can try to download the footage, or we can give you an email address and you can email us the footage. Yes, but we would love to have all those road rage calls investigated, and we would love to have any video that you have. So if you have dash cam video from your Tesla or whatever you have, we love that stuff. We will take those images, and then we can match those images at almost all the major intersections in Bellevue. There are cameras up on the traffic lights. And then we can take your images that you have from your dashboard, match that up with the traffic cameras, and we can investigate those. And if there's criminal activity involved in that road rage, or someone needs to be spoken with, we would love to have all that. So definitely call that in.
And
Okay,
one thing to keep in mind is if you do have a road rage incident, much like an accident, if you call 911, it may not be in the city of Bellevue. So if you're on the freeway, it might go to State Patrol. If you're in Renton, then the Renton police would take that report. So depending on where you're at when that road rage occurred, that's going to be the department that will actually follow up and take that information. Okay, so we had talked a little bit about ways of reporting. And again, calling 911 is always an option. And then I have also listed the online, if you go to bellevue.gov, and then police, it will say report a crime online. The link is right there also. But that's an excellent way if something's not actively happening to make a report. If you have a smartphone, you can also make that report through My Bellevue app. So you just go to the App Store and type in My Bellevue, and you'll see the app there. And not only can you report crime on that app, which it's really a very wonderful app, because you can report things like street light outages, problems with water, sewer, all sorts of things. And they're very responsive. So when you report something on that app, it gets assigned to the right department, and then they do follow-up. So it's, I find it to be a very handy tool if you have a smartphone. And I was going to go ahead and allow Captain McKinney to address these questions about, I know there were questions about potential rioting in the future and funding, et cetera. So Captain McKinney, I'll go ahead and turn that over to you.
Thanks, Ruby. I put my contact information in the chat. It's up at the top in case you need anything. Please feel free to reach out and contact me if you need anything. So as far as the protests and the riots, we had several protests this last year. There are many different groups that participated, and we as a department are committed to protecting each individual's right, their First Amendment right for free speech. What we won't, what we won't tolerate is people being destructive. And that's what happened on May 31st. So what started out as a protest actually had bad actors in that, that people came to Bellevue and they were intent on the destruction and committing crimes. And that's where you saw the looting occur. Part of that is we had a limited amount of time to prepare for something like that. Bellevue's never seen anything like that in its history. And so it took time to get resources into the city in order to control what was going on. The good news was that with video cameras and cell phones and the help of the community, we have made over 90 arrests from that day. And so unlike Seattle, we're holding these individuals accountable. We have conducted search warrants on people's houses that were involved in this situation. And we took the situation very, very seriously. So based on that, that the ENDD group was going to also hold a protest in Bellevue. And some of you were aware, the chief did community outreach and community meetings before that happened. And the ENDD group is the group that does the nightly protests in Seattle. So we had a lot of information from Seattle about how they act, what their intentions were. And again, we took this incredibly serious. We called in outside resources, we called for mutual aid, and basically we held the situation as you can be peaceful with this, but we're not going to tolerate the violence. And that's exactly what happened. They marched around the street and they went home. And so we deem that as a success because we were able to tolerate, or we were able to manage that situation. Going forward, we don't have any intel that there will be protests or future riots. But if we do, we will take the situation extremely serious because your safety is number one. If for some reason that we do get intel with that, the chief will be reaching out to the communities again. We will have, resources and manage it just like we did with the riot or the protest back in October. I'd like to open it up right now. I'll talk about the funding cuts and the homelessness in a minute, but do you have any questions specifically about the protest or the riot?
Yes, I do have one, please.
Sure, go ahead, Peter.
Can you tell us where did it happen? Like street corners, which avenue, streets, downtown area, residential area, or where was it?
Oh, it was downtown Bellevue. So for those of you familiar with Bellevue Square, it was primarily centered around Bellevue Square and the downtown park. That's primarily where people protest because that's kind of where you get the most amount of people out there. They did not go into residential areas. And it was just focused around the downtown corridor.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes.
Then I lived in Renton area, and it seems to be pretty quiet, except sometimes I heard about the the new car being broken, and something pretty minor, not really very serious, like protest, or loitering. I never heard of that in here.
No, these individuals. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe the home being broken. I mean, being breaking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So these individuals, they primarily stay around the big metropolitan cities. That's where they get the most amount of media attention, and also that's where they can be, it's lucrative with the stores. And so they primarily stay in the bigger cities. So Seattle, Tacoma had a few, but Olympia, just because it's our capital, and then Bellevue, due to the stores that are located, and so Now, as far as the motor, being broken into cars and all of that, that happens all over the place. And so the best thing I can say about the cars is don't leave anything in your cars. If you take the opportunity away, they won't seal it because it's a crime of opportunity. So don't leave cell phones, don't leave purses. If you go to a trailhead or a park, don't be putting your purse in the trunk. People are watching, and then they go and they smash a window and quickly take your purse. Ruby was talking about it in the grocery stores. Don't leave your purse in the cart and walk away from it. People actually do try and distract you as well. So again, be aware of your surroundings. But if you take the opportunities away from people, they can't commit the crime. Kenan, did you have a question?
Oh, there are two questions in the chat.
Okay.
Actually, it's one question. They want to know if like Renton or Seattle have the same like similar app, like Bellevue, that can report the issues. Do you know?
I don't know. Ruby, do you know that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question. Could you repeat it?
Do they have an app? Does Renton or Seattle have an app to report the crime?
Gosh, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I would go to their website, and it should say on their website if they have various ways of reporting. That would probably be the easiest way. Just pop on their website.
Okay, thank you. I will let them know.
Now, moving on to Bellevue Police funding cut. We are very, very well supported by our community and by our city council. In fact, even though the city is losing money due to COVID, the police is primarily funded from, it's called B&O tax. So it's basically like people going out to eat, shopping, that kind of thing. So there is a deficit in there. But based on the national narrative, we are not getting our funding cut. And also, our city council is extremely supportive of the police. They know that they're an important entity, but we had 12 vacancies where officers had left or retired this year. And a lot of agencies are not filling those vacancies for officers. But instead, the Bellevue city manager said, I want my officers, and he gave us a green light to actually fill those positions instead of saving that money. So there were other smaller cuts in other ways throughout the department, but it wasn't personnel. So that is a huge indication of the support that we receive from the city and the city council. So in terms of funding, depending on what happens with COVID, there will be a deficit somewhere. But, with your support of the community and, the increasing crime in terms of, or potential increase of crime due to possible light rail and just Bellevue becoming a big city, I feel like the department is very well supported with that. Were there any specific questions due to funding?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to explain. I love to walk in the street. I am a 78 years old man. I love to take a stroll, walk in the neighborhood park. Is there any way I can carry something kind of to protect myself, or maybe if tell my wife to carry something? Of course, I hope I don't use it, but it make me feel more safe. That's question number one. Question number two is, if I witness or I see something that happen, like some robbery in a park or something, what should I do?
So as far as carrying something, that's up to you. And Officer Porter actually talked about, some defensive tactics like mace, or there's also a device out there that makes noise just to draw attention so that people will start looking at you. But the biggest thing is carry your cell phone. And if you feel uncomfortable with something, report it. So I always like to say, see something, say something. If you see a crime occurring in a park, I want you on the phone calling 911 and be safe, find a safe location. But tell the dispatcher exactly what's happening so that we can get there and we can deal with the situation that's occurring. A lot of times people these days will just walk by things and think that somebody else will report it, but we want you to report it. We want our parks to be safe. We want you to be able to walk around, specifically Bellevue, and have it a safe place to be. But if you see a robbery, we also want you to, obviously your safety is number one. So find that safe place and stay there until we can get there, because then you're a witness and you can help us build the case with it. The biggest thing, and Ruby talked about, as detail as you can, tell us who, what, when, where, why, and how. And the biggest thing is giving us descriptors of the individuals that are involved with it. So I always say, start with your head, the head. And do they have a hat on? Do they have hair? What color is the hair? Are they male, female? What race are they? What ethnicity are they? Do they have, what is their clothing? Then start working down. What's their shirt? What's their pants? What's their shoes? Do they have a backpack on? And then do they have tattoos? Is there anything that's unusual that you can tell us? Because the more we know, the better chance that we have to deal with the situation at the time.
A simple thing is just carrying a whistle. Just having a whistle on you for, doesn't have to be super loud, but just by blowing a whistle might distract or get witnesses to pay attention if you're confronted by somebody. So just having a device or a noisemaker that gets all the other people and all the other citizens around you looking in your direction. And then oftentimes that will scare away any potential bad guys, any robbers, any aggressors. So just having as many witnesses paying attention is very helpful. But yeah, there are weapons, but with they come with training and they come with a willingness to use them. You can have all the weapons in the world, but if you don't know how to use it, you're not willing to use it, it's not going to do you any good. So if you decide to carry a weapon, learn how to use it, practice with it, and have it with you. And there are devices that you are allowed to have. But just by simply letting people know where you are, who you are, and having all the other people around you call 911, that would be the most helpful. I did look up, Renton does have an app. It's called Renton Response. I think it's down right now because when I looked at it, it was having some technical difficulties, but there is an app called Renton Response, and I couldn't find one for Seattle. They just have online reporting. I don't think they have an app, but for people in Renton, it's called Renton Response app.
I saw a question in the chat here. We don't have the statistics on any of the other cities. We're just from Bellevue, so that's all I can speak on today. But as far as the safety tips, those can go for wherever you live. We are just primarily focused on Bellevue, just because that's the city that we work and that we provide service for. So I know that Seattle, Renton, they all have community outreach officers, crime prevention liaisons. And so it would be good to reach out to them if you wanted additional information with that.
And the agencies share intelligence.
Yeah.
We have officers and we pass on information between the cities and with bulletins and stuff. So what happens in one city might be happening in another city, and we'll share that information between departments.
Now, in terms of homelessness, I heard there's some questions, and I can only speak primarily, well, I can speak to the laws in King County, but I can't speak as a whole for King County, but I can for Bellevue. So right now we have a couple things going on. We do have a Bellevue City Code for unlawful encampments. However, there was a Ninth Circuit District Court case that came out of Idaho that basically requires us to have a shelter bed in order for the individual's encampment to be removed. So with that, you are seeing encampments in Bellevue. Our homeless coordinator does go out, provide resources. We do try to find shelter beds for them. But with the COVID issue, the shelter beds have been reduced. So unfortunately, people are allowed to stay in their encampments because we aren't able to find a shelter bed for them. Now, just recently, just this last week, there were 3 encampments up in North Bellevue that we were able to find shelter beds for, and they are removing those encampments. 1 was removed last week and 2 are being removed this week. So with that, our hands are somewhat tied with the court cases that come out. Also, there was a second court case that is now in the Supreme Court that declared that vehicles that people live in are considered their homestead. So what that means is that they consider that a residence. And again, we can't remove the vehicles right now. We don't know when that court case will be heard in the Supreme Court. But we do have extensive city standard operating procedures for dealing with the situation. Bellevue does have a homeless shelter. It's located off 116th and Northeast 6-ish. And in 2022, there will be a homeless shelter, a brand new homeless shelter built in Eastgate. And that will provide beds. I think it's between 120 and 160 beds. And so hopefully with that, that will help our situation a little bit. Does anybody have any questions with homelessness?
Yes, please. So I wonder if the homeless living in a shelter, are most of them making the place sort of their permanent place, or they kind of come and go?
It depends. You know, people that are homeless, there's many different reasons why they're homeless. There's substance abuse issues and mental health issues. There's just being down on their luck issues. And so some of them do go and work, and then they come back and they, you know, they sleep there and they eat there. There's others that go there and they roam the streets during the day, and that's where they go at night to sleep. Some of them do stay there permanently, but some of them do go and decide to find places in parks under overpasses to actually stay instead of the shelter. And that's where our homeless outreach coordinator goes out, contacts them, and tries to get them back in the shelter so they're not on our streets and in our parks.
I do also have a general question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It's related to how the police department respond to emergency calls. For example, if you got a call from someone reporting, say, home violence or crime at the scene or fire, I'm kind of often curious about what happened that I see on the street, where, you know, we sometimes see fire trucks, fire engine, and ambulance, and sometimes we see, like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 police cars. So I'm just curious, you know, how that kind of things are handled.
So it's going to depend on what situation's occurring. If we have violence or if we have a crime or a reported crime with a weapon, you're going to see more officers there because it takes more officers to stabilize the situation. So if someone stole something from Macy's, you'll typically get, and they're cooperative, you'll get 2 officers. That's for officer safety, and that's for the safety of everyone else in case that individual that did the crime does become violent for some reason. If we have a crime, let's say assault with a gun, you are going to get every officer pretty much from the city going to that situation because we have to figure out how to stabilize it. And also you will probably have the fire department going as well to stage just in case someone is injured. If it's a fire, you will have a large response from the fire department. And you might see police there doing traffic control and also just trying to secure the scene for the fire department so they can work. So it just really depends on what the call is. Our standard operating procedures is that we typically go with 2 officers and to anything for the most part, even if it's a house alarm, just because we don't know what's going on right at that point in time. So if it is something like a motor vehicle prowl that occurred 2 hours ago, you'll probably just get 1 officer with that because we know that there's nothing there that is a safety risk or an issue. And we're going to take the report. We'll investigate it and take the report. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions. I'll put it back to Officer Porter and to Ruby. I'm still here though. If you have questions specifically from me, I want to thank you all for being here. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me or Officer Porter or Ruby, and we're happy to help you out.
But yeah, on the homeless camps, if you think you find a homeless camp, report it. Call us, use the app, go online. And fill out the information because maybe it's a camp that we don't know about and those people haven't had outreach yet. So if you find a tent, you see a tent in an area, let us know because that may be one that we don't know about yet. And we need to get out there and find out who they are and how we can help them. And you can do that online.
Also, if you have a business and you come to the business in the morning and someone's sleeping in front of your door, please call us. We're happy to come out and assist you. And also the individual that might be sleeping and try and provide resources and get them to move along. So don't just ignore it. Typically these people are harmless. They're not going to hurt you. They might be a little argumentative or combative, but typically they're not going to harm you. But just in case, give us a call and we can come out and help you out with it.
Is that a 911 call as well?
I have a question. It's kind of curiosity. Although I love the police, but I hardly see the police on the street. And however, whenever there is an accident and there are 3 or 4 police cars there, so where do the police go in the normal time? Do they hide in the donut shop or something? Do you go to the neighborhood, patrolling in the neighborhood?
So in Bellevue consists of 32 square miles. In the daytime, you are going to have more officers around, but typically you're only going to have, our minimums are 6 per squad. So you'll probably only have 12 officers, like patrol officers on the street at a time. Sometimes you get more. So if you think of the 32 square miles and 12 officers to cover those 32 square miles, that's a lot of terrain to cover. Our officers do not sit in the office. We have rules about sitting in coffee shops. Sometimes they're allowed to go on their breaks and their lunches. But typically they're dealing with situations, whatever's occurring. We have a lot of calls for service. Now in the nighttime after 2 a.m., you might only have 6 officers on the street for the entire city. So you take that 32 square miles down to 6 officers. 2 officers are typically used as a call. Now you're down to 4 officers. So they are in and around the neighborhoods, and they do patrol in and around the neighborhoods as best as they can. But typically they're working and they're at calls. So we have very high performing officers. And they're very, very dedicated to the city and the work they do and the citizens they serve. And we would like to be out and doing more community events, but sometimes the calls won't allow us to because we are answering the 911 calls. I think Peter had asked about the transients, if that was a 911 call. Yeah, you can call 911. You can just tell the dispatcher that it's a non-emergency. We also have a non-emergency line as well. I don't know, Officer Porter, if you know that off the top of your head, the non-emergency one, that we can put it in the chat. But you can also call the non-emergency line and report it there, but you'll get a response as well. Now, the response probably won't be as super fast. It might be if the officers aren't dealing with calls because it's not a high priority. But the thing is that we will respond. We respond to all of them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can always call 911, Peter. And you can just say that it's a non-emergency call, and they'll get to it.
Good to know. Thank you.
So our dispatchers have actually kind of been joining some of these presentations because they really do want the community to feel like they can use 911 as a resource. Back many years ago, it used to be unless something is happening and it's a true emergency, you were taught, don't call 911. But now they really do want people to call 911, and they're very quick about deciding where your call fits in line, whether it's an emergency or whether they can put you down the priority a little bit, but they'll make those decisions. So it's a great tool to use. I also just wanted to touch base about cops and coffee shops and things like that. So we do when it's not COVID time and we're able to meet in person, we offer these opportunities to get to know your officers, and it's called Coffee with a Cop. So I invite you, we share these things, these community events through a lot of our online social media, through Twitter, Facebook. Megan Black is the person that puts this out, and she's great about just alerting the community about these events. So I would just encourage you, once we're able to meet in person, to try to attend those. It's just a great opportunity to ask these types of questions and get to know your local patrol officers.
Lucy had a question. How do you report information when you don't have time to wait? So that's a good question. So if you don't have time to wait for us, just make sure you give the dispatcher a good phone number to call. Many, many, many times our officers will just call back on their way to a scene to see what's happening or what information that you have that you can provide, or they may call you after a situation is stabilized, and you can provide that information to them to have it included in the report. So just a good phone number. And then our numbers, when we call, typically it says our blocked numbers. So make sure you answer it if you get it from a blocked number, because that's how we're able to contact you. I hope that answered that question. And also, if you have a community event that you are putting together, and I'm just talking typically Bellevue, maybe it's a church event or a food drive or something like that, that you would like some outreach from the police department, please let us know. Let Ruby know, let myself know, let Officer Porter know, because we're happy to send officers there to assist with that. We love, interacting with our community. We love interacting with the kids. We want your community to know that we are safe, and that we're more than just police officers dealing with emergency situations, that we're human, and we'd like to have that connection. We do a lot of outreach with the food drives, with providing people with furniture that can't necessarily afford it. We have donated Christmas trees, and in COVID, it's a little bit more difficult, but we're still doing that outreach. So if you have an event in Bellevue, please let us know. We're happy to come by and give stickers or just say hello or just talk with you.
I'd like to share some personal safety experiences. Okay, this is Joanna, because I need to go to downtown every other day, and I work in a bank. And just like Porter said, I'm always very aware of the surroundings, people around me. And I get to learn. If I see something suspicious, yeah, just like Porter said, I will try to remember the height, but will compare it to my height, to my personal height, because I will try to see how tall is this guy? Is he taller than me? And how many inches he's taller than me? Something like that. Or the clothes he's wearing, and any specific, things I can remember. Or I try to remember the suspicious license plate number. So that's a good training too. If I see something, if I can take a number of the license number, I take the picture. I will try to memorize it. The other thing I like to remind everybody is the gas station theft precaution issue. A lot of people, when you go to a gas station, you go out your car and but you didn't lock your car, right? Usually the car is unlocked. I think it's very important when you get out of the car, have your key, but lock the car and get your gas. Otherwise, if you have anything in your car, in the back seat, even on the passenger seat, people might open the door, grab your things, and left. So that's the things I try to remember my friends. And the other thing is when you are driving on the highway and when it's dark, I don't go to those like rest areas when it's dark. I told my friend, she said she never thought about it, but think about it. If you go to the rest area, you think, oh, it's a public area, but if it's dark, not many people around, that's still a possible potential crime scene. So if you're very desperate to go to a restroom, hold on a little bit, go to like a McDonald's or other, public places, but try avoid those rest areas. That's just my personal tips and the personal experience to share with everybody. Okay, and I really appreciate the officers you spend your morning time to share all this meaningful and educational lesson to us. Really learn a lot. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Even I'm not from Bellevue, yeah, but I really appreciate it. And Jerry, yeah, and I really enjoy this seminar. Thank you very much.
Very good tips. And again, as Officer Porter had mentioned earlier, exactly what you're talking about, Joanna, is it's always better to go somewhere that's either well lit or has other people around. So again, just being very aware of your surroundings and paying attention to things like that. It's nighttime, it's dark, gosh, nobody's here and it's just me. So common sense would tell me, it might not be the safest place to try to use the restroom. Maybe I will go use a public gas station bathroom, or at least I know there's an attendant working there. So very, very good tips, and just to be aware, paying attention to your environment. Did we have any other questions?
Yes, may I?
Yes, please do. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay, the office mentioned about, have the whistles with you when you go outside, particularly to the big area like a park or and not many people around. Would you have the officer suggest what kind of whistle we should buy to carry?
Well, I don't think there's a suggestion about any type of whistle. I think Officer Porter was just merely saying that anything that can emit a loud noise. Captain McKinney had talked about, they make these little devices where you can push a button and it will actually send out an audible, almost like a car alarm. So anything that will draw attention to you. So if you're in a park and something is making you feel like this isn't right, I feel like I'm in danger, my safety is compromised, and you make noise, whether it be a loud whistle that you blow or a button that you push that sends out a loud alarm, it's going to bring attention. People will look at you to see what's that noise, and possibly distract the person that's making you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I bet at this moment, the people attending these sessions, I don't know how many people have that, in their home, or they go out with anything like, either whistles or what, anything make a noise. This is something very good idea. We have to, as a group, Jerry, I think we have to think about it, just for our own protection. Yeah. Thank you anyway.
Yeah, and I know a lot of you don't live in Bellevue, but do keep in mind, I mean, there is crime that occurs, but Bellevue really is still a very safe city. So we don't want you to feel paranoid or feel like, you have to be suspicious of everything and everyone. It really is a safe city. But just merely keeping your awareness, vigilant, and knowing your surroundings is going to help you a lot.
I think there's a question about pepper spray. Do you recommend people carry pepper spray?
Yeah, pepper spray can work. You can buy it at most sporting goods stores, Walmart. There's a lot of places that sell different versions. My only problem is when we use pepper spray as police, we're trained on it. We have to do refreshers all the time, and there is sort of a learning curve, a technique to use it, and be prepared for that pepper spray to oftentimes come back on you. So if the wind is blowing the wrong way, or if you're running and you go to spray somebody with it, it's quite likely that pepper spray also will get on you. So you need to be prepared for that and ready for the fact that you may end up spraying someone you didn't intend to, or spraying yourself. But when used properly and when used with training, it will work. It can work. It's not 100%. The pepper spray that we use is significantly hotter at a higher level than what the citizens have. And even the pepper spray we have doesn't always work. And quite often when we spray it, all the officers in the area also get sprayed. So that's the only reason what I'd be careful with was the pepper spray, especially indoors, that it's going to get on you too. And if that's going to affect you and prevent you from getting away and getting to a safe place because you've been sprayed with your own pepper spray, I would be careful, but it can work. And that's why RAD has specific training for how to use pepper spray the right way.
And with any weapon, I just want to remind you that, any weapon that you use, whether it's pepper spray or a baton, anything that you're carrying, has the potential to be taken away from you by the perpetrator, the bad guy, and used against you. So, when Officer Porter talks about training, it's a lot. You just have to keep in mind these various things that the potential is also there to have it taken away from you and used against you. So just use caution.
Yes, especially when you are old and weak and slow, so.
Yes. Yeah, I follow the same question. I think the Asian, the size of the body, female, a little bit small, so intend to get a pepper spray in their purse as a last resort. Will you set up some kind of a demonstration meeting without using the pepper spray, just using non-lethal or just water? Can you show us some of the techniques? Because I do know quite a few ladies in our group are using pepper spray or are carrying pepper spray.
In the RAD class that we teach, that I've taught in the past, they use silly string. So they'll go out and they'll buy silly string at the party stores, and that's what they use to practice with pepper spray, because it doesn't cause any effect. It doesn't get in the air, and you can actually see where it's spraying by using the silly string. So if you want to buy some silly string and practice your pepper spray techniques, go buy a can of silly string.
And Peter, the police department isn't able to put on training for civilians with weapons. There is just too much liability in that. And so that's why Officer Porter suggested the RAD training. And there's some other self-defense training out there that's available that Ruby had put up earlier. But in terms of the police department, it's too much liability to do the training specifically. So I would look to those private organizations to get that training.
Thank you. I have several other small questions. What's the process for Bellevue Police if I report to have a mailbox kind of hacked out, open, and missing some mail? What's the police after report? What are they going to do with?
Well, that would be a perfect opportunity for you to report online either through the website or my Bellevue app, because that's something that is not occurring at that moment. It's not what we consider in progress. And you can provide all the details, even photographs of your mailbox and the damage. You could submit those online. But basically that report goes into a system. And as I talked about before, the importance of reporting is that we can track crime that's happening in a particular area. So if we know your neighborhood is having a rash of mailbox thefts or vandalisms or car prowls, we can start paying better attention to that area and increase our patrols, or assign people to that area to do investigations and more work.
So by reporting, the sole purpose is just tabulation of the crime area, right? For the victim, I won't get any meaningful help, right?
Well,
is that what kind of an answer you're giving?
So there's a couple things here. So yeah, we do get statistics out of it in order to deploy resources, but unless there's some type of suspect information, and so it's a difficult thing because a lot of times the mail thefts, they come and go. Somebody might get a video of a car that we can track down a license plate, and if we have those leads, then we can do that. If we just have an open mailbox with mail missing, we don't have a whole lot to investigate or to go on because we don't know who did it. We don't have a vehicle. We don't have a suspect description. However, by you reporting it, if for some reason that say the next night or the following night, our officer stops a car and there's a bunch of mail in this car, then we have another way to begin investigating that again. We may be able to get your mail back for you, but we may be able to tie that person in that car to those mail thefts. So there's a lot of different things that have to occur in order for a suspect to be charged with your crime with that crime. So it just depends on the circumstances, basically. I know we say it all depends, but it really does. If we don't have anything to go on, it'll go in our system and it will just be there unless something else pops up.
Just a few days ago, one of our tow companies impounded a car, and in their inventory of their routine inventory of the car, they found stolen mail, they found stolen credit cards and IDs. They called me and I was able to return all those items back to those victims. So if you don't report online, it's harder for me to return those to you. So there is a case where I was able to get property back to the owners because a car was impounded by a tow company and found in their back seat. So it does happen.
Well, each mail has an address, so even I don't report it, I think after you find it, you still gotta deliver, right?
Yeah, because it was not in the envelopes were gone. So this was the stuff that didn't have addresses. I just had names. Like a credit card just has a name. And I was able to look up that name, see that person had done a report, and then I was able to get that stuff back. So the envelopes weren't there in the stuff, so I couldn't track it by envelope address.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And second question is, we're talking about riot. From my understanding, each group doing the demonstration, they need to apply for a permit. Those people, along with those riot, are you treating non-lethal gathering? Are you giving any kind of a punishment for those people?
So in terms of the permits, right now the city of Bellevue is not providing permits because of COVID. But the First Amendment protects their right to free speech. And so basically they're allowed to gather under the First Amendment and be able to peacefully protest.
Wow, okay, that's new to me. So I can gather right now, we have 58 people. online, we can walk out to the street and doing demonstration without getting any punishment by the city. Okay.
Well, you
Thank
can't be in
you.
the street.
The
That's not lawful. But if you want to go to downtown park, you can get 57 people together, and you can have your gathering down there.
Okay. The third question is, I saw the YouTube talking about a lady at Chinatown get a carjacking and fighting with the carjacker. If you're a carjacking victim, what are you supposed to do to fight it off, the carjacking in the
Get
city?
in your car and get to
Get
a
out
safe
the car.
Give them the car and go to a safe place. Find a safe place. Do not fight them. It's property.
Same with purse.
If you
Yeah.
have-
Same with purse snatching. Someone trying to take your cell phone. Someone trying to snatch your necklace. Let them take the property. Be a good witness. Don't try to fight back and get hurt. It's not worth getting hurt over property.
But if you have a baby in the back, what do you do?
That's each individual person will have to make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
You'll get quite a response from the police if there's a baby in the back of the car. I'll tell you that. Most of us have kids and we know, so you'll get quite the response.
I'd like to raise a question. I used to, still, receive quite a lot of junk mails. Should I destroy all those, shred all the address before I discard them? Or is it all right just to toss it away? Does it impose any danger, for the people to use it, just to get some personal information, or maybe easier to get any kind of crime?
If it's just your address and no other personal information, you're probably fairly safe. But as a rule of thumb, if you have a shredder and it's just as easy to pop it in there, it's best just to destroy anything so it's not floating out there. Your name along with your address, is a starting point for somebody. And if you had something else that provided a little bit more, it's just better to shred everything if you're able to.
Especially the credit card offers. Shred the credit card offers.
Just a general comment. I'm strongly against the defunding of the police department, because we really need the help from the police, and they are working very hard. Another comment is that I used to live in different states, but one time when I was driving, I was overspeed a little bit. So I was stopped by a cop, and he was very nervous. And I thought, when I was stopped by the police in the other states, they were much more courteous. They're not so uptight and, hostile to the the one who committed. So I just wonder if, the police doesn't have to be so hostile to anybody who commit some kind of wrongdoing. Yeah, that's my comment. But maybe that's the only incident that I have I have encountered.
I think with police work, it's like any job, you get a variety of personalities. So I can't speak for every individual, but I think at least I know many, many Bellevue police officers, and I know they really make an effort to, be courteous, be professional, have conversations with people, there's really no need to not be courteous. So I'm sorry that you experienced that with another department. That should not be the norm.
Well, I have one good experience with the police I'd like to share as well. This has happened like many years ago. It was at about 10 o'clock in the evening, and I got a call from a police telling me that my garage door was open, and remind me to close the garage door. So I was surprised and found that the police car was right outside of my house. So I was surprised, and I really appreciate what they did.
That's excellent. Thank you, Peter, for sharing. We do stuff like that. You know, if there's an alarm that goes off at your house, we'll try and contact you. And so it's not always the bad reasons that we're in contact with you, and we want to have good reasons too. So I'm glad that they took the time to make sure that your garage door was closed.
And whenever there was a discussion, when I have a chance, I broadcast what happened.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're getting to a point where we'll have to close here shortly. So I just want to make sure that we've addressed everybody's questions and provided you the information that you were looking for today.
I have a question. So I used to live in a not so safe neighborhood. So one time there were couple policemen broke our fence and got into our backyard to trace somebody. And then I asked them, because they were tracing somebody, so I wasn't able to stop them or whatever afterward. And then I called the police departments later on and asked them what happened that night. And they refused to let me know any information. And also another time, I saw a few police with guns, and then just in like around the house, just facing our house, just like maybe 20 steps away from my house. So we were nervous. We were watching what's going on from our windows. And then after everything's done, and then they got somebody from the house. So I went outside and checked with the policemen and asked them what just happened, because my house is just like in front of their house. I wanted to know what's going on inside the house, so we should do something to protect ourselves. But the policemen, they refused to let us know what's going on. Is it a policy in the police department that they are not allowed to speak to us for anything's happened? Because we were really concerned, because the house is just right in front of us. We see those people every single day. So
yeah. So with those situations, there's a couple things. We can let you know kind of like generally what may have happened. But as far as the investigations, we can't say anything because they could be ongoing. And then also, people do have a right to privacy. And so the way that you would be able to find out what happened is you can do a public records disclosure on it. And as long as there wasn't an ongoing criminal investigation, they will release those documents to you. You can find that on our website or the City of Bellevue, and you look at public records disclosure. But typically, I know for Bellevue specifically, if there was any safety issues, they would let you know at that time if you go down and ask. But what specifically went on in the house or the situation, they're not going to discuss it with you. As far as your fence, again, they can let you know if there's a safety issue, but also most departments have a risk management department. And so in order to fix your fence, you can, for Bellevue specifically, if something like that happens, our officers should be leaving a card or contacting you saying, hey, we broke your fence. Here's a phone number to call so that the city of Bellevue can fix your fence. Each department is different, like Ruby has kind of talked about, and every situation is different, but we can't release information from a scene to the neighbors. We can just tell you if it's safe or not.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining today and all these great questions. I hope that this was helpful for you. And I know that our information is posted in the chat. So if you have follow-up questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out.
A quick comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we are the new member of the Bellevue and very close to the downtown. And I really appreciate that the Bellevue Police Department very well and proactive to prevent from the bad action of those protesters last year. So it's very good educational before and after, and we joined the town meeting. We really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I second that. Thanks a lot.
Well, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming today, and yeah, this information is really helpful. And
我可以讲一下他们去年准备的情形吗
？OK， yeah， 等他们先走吧。
yeah， 大概1分钟或2分钟。刚刚他也就是一点哈，他们就是预先。
要不要等他们先走？
哦，他们走了吗？
还没有，先跟他们讲。OK， yeah， thank you for coming, and yeah, we will continue our meeting, and yeah, thank you so much for coming and your time.
And thank you for reaching out, Jerry. We appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so if we have any question, we will reach out to you again and see if we have like some program like in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you. Have a nice weekend.
没有人说 Happy New Year。
OK， 哦，好，那陈医师可以讲。那我们最后 Ella 今天也会给我们带一些运动，对，所以大家记得。
要我大略讲一下了哈，因为就是去年 Bellevue 暴动引起的这个 Bellevue 警察局吓一跳哈，他们是没有准备到。后来他们是我看他们的做法就是跟 Redmond 啊、Seattle 啊，跟几个警察部门互通那个通报哈，然后准备，而且他们人员也有互相支援哦。因为当这些要暴动的人来的时候，他们大概都知道了，而且他们也抓到一些人哈，所以呢，他们知道哪一些人有来了，所以呢，去年是这些警察呢就在downtown那边等着他们，然后看那些他刚刚有提的背部有那个背包啊哈。尤其是有拿棒球棒的哦，这些呢，他们就特别盯着他们看。然后呢，当他们来了以后，开始要游行呢，那个警察这些人就去跟着他们哦。那当场面对面跟他们讲，你们有权利在这边游行，但是你不要乱搞，我们看着你哦。所以后来他们那些都不敢动了哦。所以呢，他们现在就说我看到的是，他们是一直在教育，然后呢跟别的地方的警察互相支援，如果人力不够，那边可以赶过来帮忙的样子哦。那就是说他们会盯着那些主要的人哦，那跟着他们。那如果一发现他行为不对的时候，马上抓起来哦。所以呢，去年他后来就是只有一点点小争执而已，没有什么发生了哦。就是他们现在是非常的主动的在准备了。这是 Bellevue 这一边，那西雅图那边好像 不一样的样子。那 Raymond 那边也都是主动的在准备，就是大家都在注意哦。这是我的经验。
谢谢陈医师。那
我接着讲一句话吧。
好，
刚才他提到了大家身上要带哨子，就让我回忆到这个银发族曾经安排了2场卖这个 emergency preparedness 这些东西，里面就有一个哨子是非常重要的，你没事一定要带在口袋里头，在你遇到灾难，包括天灾、人灾这些东西拿出来，吹哨子是很省力的事，而且可以传播了更远，比你叫救命啊救命啊这个语言上的障碍可能会造成人家不晓得你在干什么东西，所以吹哨子是非常重要的。还没有准备哨子的人也要赶快准备一下。陈医生有没有带着哨子在口袋啊？你现在有没有带着哨子在这个口袋里啊？
现在家里为什么要带？
你穿的裤子是出去的裤子吗？
对了，那个 Office Depot 啊，那些都有在卖了哦。小小的像一支笔一样，那个都可以准备的带着。
我那个现在出去的时候都还会带一把伞，就是 protection。虽然不知道会不会 protect 什么，可是至少有一把伞在手上，就觉得好像比较安全一点。
那么这样你来练习温医师的养生刀里面的那个几招都可以保护你的。
妈那种可以吗？
可以啊，那个像云手那个就是它里面你念它的词就知道，哦，那个就是保护的嘛。
可是我打了很多那个太极拳，我一直都在怀疑怎么保护啊，因为只是在那边比来比去。
那个几个招都是保护的啦，我可以教你的。
是我们没有保护的这个啦，所以而且我们常常讲说，现在我们的年龄大了，这个手脚也比较没有那么大力气，脚也跑不快了啦，所以这一方面我觉得稍微
带着一把伞那个 for protection。
你在练的时候不要以为那个是在跳舞，那个是每一招都是保护和攻击。
真的哇 ，OK。可是所以我们练的时候都要出力吗？都要出很大的力来练？
不用，但是你心要晓得你这支招出去是在做什么，这样。好了，这个在养生功的时候再教吧。
问你意思。
对，那我这边跟万一刚刚有人没有听懂，就是其实我整理几个重点啦，就是他们说就是在路上遇到可疑人士，你就尽量在人多的地方，尽量少去人少的地方。那如果说真的遇到可疑人士，你就在人多的地方，然后要赶快进入到商店啊或是餐厅这样子。对，那刚刚有问就是避难所 homeless 的问题，对啊，因为我都把那些翻译在那个聊天的里面，那大家也可以到聊天 chat 这边去看啊。对，那刚有人问避难所，他说就是在 Eastgate 他们有一个避难所要盖的，它是2019年计划的，对，那可能今年就确定会盖吧。对，还有刚刚有什么问题啊？他们有个就是一个课程，然后目前 Bellevue 没有，但是就是一个防强暴，可能就是有教一些自我防卫的技巧啦。那如果他们之后有一些课程资讯，我可能可以请他们分享给我，我可以再分享给大家去别的地方上这样子。对 ，OK， 好，对啊，大家可以请说。
Jerry， 我建议其实他那个什么 Coffee with the Cup 那个 program 很好，以后我们的中心开放的时候也可以请他们来午餐 Lunch with the Cup。
对啊，或是礼拜六生日，以后有庆生会，他们也可以一起来跟我们吃东西之类的，都可以。
对 ，Good idea， 加一。
Yeah。
顺便教预防生素。
这
这么老了啦，最好用不到啦，免得到时候你身体没有防，结果伤害到自己，跌一跤啊，或者是什么。
对，那我刚刚想到，就是万一你带什么武器啊，就是你要第一个他们说要先训练好你会使用那个武器，任何武器都一样啦。那我相信现在 YouTube 上面有很多影片可以看。那平常就是要多训练自己啊。如果说你真有带什么武器，因为有可能你使用方式不对，会伤害到自己，或是被别人抢走，他们也会被人家被伤害到这样子。对。
对啊，而且我觉得在紧急的时候，你真的是会手忙脚乱。那也许平常 train 的蛮不错的，可是到时候一用起来就乱了套。所以我觉得，那个挥手还比较好一点。
最好的计策是36计啦。
你又走不快，
那不好，跑不快啊。所以我说哨子还是最容易的啦，至少你可以走的。所以我同意玉你的想法。
对，而且还可以像项链一样挂着，那个比你挂钻石还要值得，对不对？挂在你的那个胸前，比你挂钻石有用。
对，钻石人家还会抢。
对呀，所以你挂哨子最好，而且你不会忘记。像我现在如果出去走路的话，我就是挂那个哨子，就选小一点的嘛。
Peter， 上一回你吹口哨的时候是什么时候？童子军的时候吗？
有人示范了，
现在吹了。
Peter， 你
那个哨子，那个哨子要去哪里买呢？你刚刚说 Office Depot 吗？还是
Office Depot 我买过哦。那 Peter， 如果你现在吹的话，我马上叫警察，你在胡闹。
这是在我家里面，对不起啊。
有人在家里乱吹，我要放爆。
管不了在家里面了。
Peter， 你在家，你那个挥手在哪里买的？
我们
那个 Jerry， 我请教一下哦，我们美国家里可以准备枪，但是我枪可不可以带出去外面呢？有没有犯法？带在外面？
好，等一下，刚刚他有问题，
可以带，但是你不能拿出来了。
你有执照的话，
等一下，
有执照，
那就 OK 了。
有执照可以拿出去外面的，带在外面。
但是你不能这样拿着枪这样在走路啊。
你们先停一下 ，Jerry 要讲话。
没有，刚刚 Charlie 才问 Peter 一个问题了，然后我等下再回答那个 James 的问题。对，要不要 Peter 先回答 Charlie 的问题？
我们这个哨子是好几年在银发族还开放的时候，有公司来卖，专门是为了给这个 emergency preparedness 里面，这是其中的一个，并不是要买。那其他的很多有用的东西，
我的哨子
都是我们平常日常要想到了。
那个 keychain 那边。
所以这个只是借着这个哨子来给你们讲一下，大家要多准备啊，对不对啊？这哨子只是一个小部分了。
我有一个建议，比哨子更有用的，是一种用拉的就很响的那种，发那个声音的那种，一个小小的东西。
Peggy， 你有没有？有的话，可不可以就现在秀出来给我们看？什么样用拉的东西
？OK，Peggy 在准备的时候，我先回答 James 的问题好了。因为去年我有研究过一下枪啦，那它是华盛顿州就是 open carry 的那个州，所以你可以就是把枪带在身上，但是你要亮出来，不是拿在手上哦，但是就是放在你的腰间，亮出来是没问题的。你可以把枪背在身上，这都是，所以你在路上看到有人背在枪，就是它是 open carry 的，我们 open carry state。那但是你如果说你要把枪藏起来，你反而需要一个执照，那你要跟你当地的警察局去申请一个conceal license， 那你要去按指纹啊什么什么的，对。
我现在就那个
在吗？对 ，OK， 好，现在 Peggy 要给大家看那个，我帮你 spotlight 给大家看哦。好。
这个东西，这个后面一拉就很响。
看不到哦。
看不到。
你拉一下，
晃去，
看不清楚，因为你一直动来动去的。
对，我把那个
暗的，
这后面一拉就非常的响。
你可不可以拉拉看？
就
那警察马上来。
整条街都听到了，这个比那个哨子还响。而且你紧张的时候，你不能吹哨子的话，你就可以用拉的。别人也可以
还是看不清楚那个字哦。
Prepasso。
对不起，让我们抄一下。
不要动了，一直动。
你动来动去啊，不行啊。
P 什么
？P R
不是
你就
PASO。
你就照个相，然后
Jerry 已经帮你们写出来了啦，你们看那个 chat 地方就行了嘛。
好了，感恩了。
后面是这样子。
哪里买啊？
你也可以跟那个有一个灯啊。
Amazon 有了。
Amazon。
一种 light 这样子。
有一个 light 跟着
弄在一起，你可以弄。
Amazon 一个是13块。
哇，好棒哦！一下子就。
对啊，我看了2个是9块9毛9啊。
还有
买10个有没有更便宜？
还有哨子24个13块或14块。
Costco 有没有？
问题是，
那我们可以团购啊。
可以团购。
这哨子最容易买嘛。
对啊。
去这个 Big Five 啦，或者是 Sporting Goods Store 啦。
对啊，然后刚刚他们说就是一开始他们说最好的武器就是你的手机啊，那我觉得这我之前就是可能 Victor 才有讲过，反正手机真的很有用啊，那尽量就是他说要多打电，有事情就可以打911回报，这是没问题的。对，
手机很有用，是给你打电话用的，是不是？
对，他说可以回报、照相，然后都可以。
录音啊。
但是他讲说是救命的，救命的。
对啊。
手机怎么办？
那个功能不大一样啊，是口罩跟手机的功能不一样，但手机有手机的用处，口罩有口罩的用处嘛。
对了，Peter 你讲的对。
对啊，手机可能是那个可以搜寻证据啊，那你吹口哨的话，可能就比较没有证据啊。
对啊，我只是要提醒大家，就是他刚刚讲，就是打电话给警察的时候要回报，就是从头到脚啊，就是他们身高啊，然后穿什么衣服的样式啊，然后帽子啊，有没有戴帽子，或是那些所有的都是最好可以描述清楚啊。对，那还有他们你可以应用就是网页的，或是有些 city 他们有些城市它有 app 可以用手机的 app 去描述这些事情。对，我只是就是给一些可能没有听清楚的朋友在。
还有一项建议就是如果你车子在你的旁边的话，你车子钥匙后面的红色按钮也可以按下去。车子钥匙的
alarm 那个 yeah。
看什么？
那个手机啊，那个照相啊，打电话啊，那个都是收集证据跟那个 reporting 啊，报警。可是你那个口罩基本上是一种自卫，就是你紧急的时候赶快吹一吹，就赶快把那个坏人吓走。所以这个功能是完全不同的。
然后要抢手机的话怎么办？给他。
对，给他赶快逃。
命比较重要。
又抢手机啦。
现在好像很少抢手机了嘛，原因就是他打不开嘛。
不，还可以追踪。
对啊。
而且还可以追踪，对。
除非这是犯罪团体的。
大家有没有什么 其他的问题，不然我们可以请 A 啦。
跟你们 share 一些 information 啊。前几年呢、我这边的 community 啊，Bellevue 的警察、啊，在我们这个大公园这边呢、啊，在那个 Leckmont Boulevard 上头那个就消防那个fire station 对面那个公园里头啊，做了一个跟市民啊交换这个就是来跟我们解说了。他讲说，犯罪在家里这个就被闯进门来的，坏人做事都是在白天的多，这第一点。第二点呢、他是说尽量的，就是跟邻居啊互通有无啊，也可以自己保护自己了啊。万一有什么事情，你要出远门，跟邻居打个招呼啊，说至少他可以帮一下忙。所以这个那时候警察来也弄得大家都很，所以每年呢、几乎常常啊，就是每一年呢、都有一次请警察局啊，特别来跟这些 community 的人啊，我们住这边附近的 community 这些人呢、参加人也不少，我也去参加了几次呀。对，这 information 跟大家 share 一下。谈到警察，我刚刚搬来这里的时候啊，下山被警察把我挡住了。我要上班，早上上班，那个7点多钟，他讲说你晓不晓得我为什么把你挡下来？我说大概晓得，大概我是 speedy。然后讲对，你开了这边你开了只能开30，但是你开了将近40，所以我把你 stop。然后我就跟他讲说对不起，我刚刚昨天才搬到这个 community 来这边，我就住在这边，结果他讲说。这样好了，你再下去的时候，你就不要开太快。他也让我走，他也没有开罚单，也没有什么。另外有一次我到那个 Snoqualmie Falls 去，我整个车上啊，我开的是那个大红的那个 Cadillac Impala Cadillac 大车子，我上头坐了8个人。我是唯一的男的，其他的都是女的，都是长荣航空上头的空姐。那个老板来了之后说：“你没有事就带他们到那里走走。”我就这样，结果也是在这个 I-90 被挡下来。那个年轻小伙子啊的警察看到那个空姐那么漂亮啊，他也没有帮我罚单，说你开下去了就要小心一点。所以我跟这个警察就是有这么过2次的，对，给大家做没有事，这个大家分享一下。
谢谢 Charlie， 我们要记住啊，他的第一句话很重要。我们刚刚搬来。那我再给大家讲一声哈，这个昨天我跟 Jerry 联络，因为我们往年隔2年都有这个Senior Safe Driving Class， 你上了那个 class， 你再去申请你的驾驶执照，而不是申请你的这个
保险。
这个 car insurance 的时候，他大概给你减免。我自己的公司，它可以减免35块钱。
哇，半年还是
减免2年、3年，现在给我是3年，所以大家有兴趣的话，自己 Jerry 送给我一个可以上网去上课的。以前我们是在银发族上课嘛。这是由 AARP 组成的。
你可以转发给我们吗？
对啊，那个 link 可以放在那个 group 里面吗
？OK。
Jerry， 你可不可以在大众服务一下？
我看一下哦，我现在
你昨天
放在 chat
发给我那个吗？
对啊，放在 chat 里面，其实就是就是直接查 AARP Driver Safety 就是的。对，我放在 chat 里面。
那个要钱吧？要20块钱或是40块钱，我忘记了。
对啊，
你是 AARP 的 member 的话是15块钱。
对。
对啊，如果你要申请 ARP，应该上他们网站应该就可以申请了。有没有什么其他的问题啊？如果没有，我们可以请 A 啦，还有今天也有准备一些运动，可以帮我们带领大家做一下。
照相。OK。
我是 Lucy， 可以稍微插一下嘴吗？请问有谁还没有那个约到那个什么那个疫苗？大家都
第二个dose我还没有约到。
哦 ，OK， 听说下个礼拜会好约一点啦，2月15号以后啦，有更多的 dose 会来，对，有更多的 dose 会来，
这样好，因为他们都一直在讲说，我好多地方都可以去，好多地方都可以去，可是几乎每一个地方都没有dose啊。
对，2月15号从那个联邦会再送来，现在是几乎都没有了。
那个 Peter， 你在2月12号早上10点之前，赶快在网上仔细看那个 St. Anne Hospital in Bury， 就是以前的 Highland Medical Center， 他有 po 出来说那一天很可能会有，所以你就在那时候准备看他，如果一旦10点 po 出来，就赶快上网登记嘞。我是昨天晚上看到的。
哪一个地方？你说？
你去那个网站哈 ，Where Location 那里，你一直走到后来，它有个 St. Anne Hospital，St. Anne Hospital 它就是以前的，就在 Bury 哈，就是以前的
Highland
Medical Center， 它有 po 出来说2月12号10点那一天可能会有，所以你就不妨就是在10点之前赶快，你反正就是10点他如果一 po 出来，你赶快上网去登记看看，试看看。
有没有人去那个 overlay 打过第一个 dose？
我打过第一个在 overlay。
那我请问你一下，你去打第一针的时候，他有没有给你 book 第二针？
没有啊，你 book 第一针的时候，他不是先给你一个email confirmation 吗？他在那里就写着叫你21天以后 book 第二针嘛。
所以他叫你自己弄，他不是替你弄。
对。
OK， 现在问题就是叫你自己弄都找不到嘛，对不对？所以因为我看到一个那个他的 message 说，他们发现有些人打了第一针，但是没有 book 第二针，所以他们在 reach out 给这些人说，你已经打了第一针，赶快来打第二针。可是问题就是人家 book 不到第二针嘛，不是人家不去打，是 book 不到，所以他们这个讲话我是觉得很奇怪。
不是啦，这个不能这样讲的哈。
他讲的不是我讲的。
没啦，我在跟你讲实际情况。开始的时候都会打第一针，马上给你 book 第二针，但是发现现在药厂做不出来，所以他现在改了，说你第二针3个礼拜到6个礼拜都可以，因为他没有办法给你保证第二针哦，所以呢，他现在就是非常困难。他本来是1个礼拜只能够拿到10万剂，全华盛顿州，他现在一直在争取看能不能更高了，更多嘛，他现在这个拿不到药，你看中共定了1亿。Pfizer 的针，那谁拿去了，对不对？他价钱高，可能就拿走了，所以呢，这个是相当难的，所以他现在法规在改，就是说，好吧，那你就等到5到6个礼拜，打第二针这样。那么这个期间，就是你尽量赶快去约第二针就是了，那你要记得你打第一针是什么，所以呢，约第二针是相同的，那很多人是打第一针以后忘记了你到底是 Moderna 还是 Pfizer，那这样的话呢，你跑去的时候要怎么办呢？那也只好让你打了啦，因为有打比没有打好了，不过基本上你要记得你打的是哪一种，那赶快去约第二针就是。
你 book 的时候，他不是就会跟你讲说，他们是有哪一种 vaccine 吗？不是这样吗？
对呀，很多人都忘记嘛，打完以后根本搞不清楚是打什么针，所以他法规上 才准许说好吧，这种情形下只好让你，反正你哪一针有就打了哦。那昨天一对老夫妻了，80岁90岁的，结果呢，太太要打，先生拒绝打，但是他们已经登记了哦。那这样怎么办呢？就像有可能说那个省 N 的医院会 open 就是这样overlay 也是 open， 就是有一些人定了以后他不打了，哦，那这个药就浪费掉，不行嘛，所以赶快 open 给大家 walk in 的可以打哦。所以我跟那位老太太讲说，你就把他带去，他当场拒绝打，人家可以赶快 open 给别人打哦。那你现在说我不去了，那你要不要 cancel 呢？他又不愿意 cancel 哦，这个非常麻烦的很多年纪大的人，他的 idea 是很不确定的刚刚我跟一位伊索比亚的病人的女儿讲，她说她妈妈不肯打，但是他们登记了怎么办呢？这个也是非常头痛的你如果是在打针的医院的立场，他们非常难control
有些人在讲说overlay 啊，被那个 overlay 取消那个 appointment
对呀，我朋友也是取消了。本来他是这个星期一打的，后来推迟2个星期，所以现在第2针也不知道怎么办，因为他4月初的那个都已经满了，所以如果他推迟到16号打的话，4月初也订不到，他根本就不止
我可以说，
在别的医院可以了，就是约就是了，
约不到啊，都满了。
我想说一下，问一下可以吗？
Yeah.
那个我前2天我跟我太太预约到那个3月初在那个澳本的一个 center， 我听说他们是 driver 开车进去，然后在车上打的不过有人跟我讲说像这种方式说不定到时候会给你 cancel， 我不知道3月初的那个第1针他们会不会把我们 cancel 掉？我是问这个。
我上个礼拜六讲的你到那个 DOH Washington 上去，它就有非常多的点在打，你把它点进去看看，比较乡下的啦点进去看他们可能就有 open。
我就是这样点，您刚跟我讲的那天4点早上4点多点进去的，点到3月几号有2个位置，有4个位置我们是点下午1点20跟1点40的。他们也给我们确定了时间，然后地点就在 open 的一个 center。我是昨天听
应该没问题了。
不会把我们
那个是
cancel 掉
那个 open 那个叫 GSP 我先生本来是2月1号他在 St. Francis， 我载他去打，结果他的原因是他问他说你过去2个礼拜有没有打任何疫苗？那我先就跟他讲说我1月23号打了 Shingle 第2针，所以呢他就请他一个老板进来跟我先解释说，为了安全起见，就是说你在打这个疫苗之前2个礼拜14天你都不能有任何疫苗，所以我先生那一天2月1号他等于说还没有到14天，所以他就被取消了，所以呢他必须要在2月8号以后才可以 available 可以打他的第1针，所以我也是昨天晚上在你刚刚讲的这个 Auburn 这个地方我也订到了，订到2月9号，那他现在还3月10号12、13、14好像还有位置，所以那个 Peter 你可以，我等一下传那个网站给你，进去上面点看看。我早上也介绍我一个朋友，他也点到3月5号，他点到3月5号。
这个是不是75岁以上那个 program？
没有，不是75岁是在我们这个。
他本来是75岁，对，他这么讲。
真的，罗叔
不过他们给我们预约到了，我的意思是说，他们不会把我们 cancel 掉嘛，在我们3月3号要打针之前，应该不会。
不用担心了，每一个人都有可能被 cancel。
应该不会，
不用担心那么多了，反正只要有机会就去 try 了。因为像我朋友也是，他们在那个什么Virginia Mason 也是，他要去打第2剂也被 cancel 掉，所以 anytime 都有可能，也可能疫苗不够，所以也被 cancel， 所以没关系，你只要有位置就赶快存着希望就去打就对了。
对，我说是第1针人，但我存着希望，因为我是怕如果
那个 Peter， 我等一下把那个网站给你，你
谢谢
去看看，就是 all day。
OK， 我只是要知道说这个是不是一定要75岁以上才可以？
对啊，我有在资讯交流分享群组分享这件事情啊。 那就是我上上礼拜我有问大家有没有人住在南边，然后那这个本来这个 site 是给有个网站，然后它 screen 之后，然后是给 Auburn 跟 Kent 有两个地方可以打，那是给南边的居民 South King County 的居民，然后75岁以上或是你是50岁以上的家庭照顾者。那美国的系统真的是好吧，那他们就是全部筛选过后，他们就连接到同一个网址。那你不用筛选，你也可以直接从那个网址里面，你就点进去，你就可以登记说你就可以登记到那个预约了。所以我在提的是，那个其实这两个赛是要给南边居民75岁以上，但是我相信很多人都直接分享最后那个网址，然后让大家直接去预约那个 appointment 这样子。那我是说我不知道到时候他们会不会查核说你是不是75岁以上，你是不是南边的居民，因为他会想要你带你的 photo ID， 然后带你的那个保险卡去。但是如果对，
我朋友他在 Seattle， 他也上网去，他就被 kick out， 就说他会看，他是
没有对，他有2个网站，他第一个网站是筛选的网站，然后筛选过后会有一个网站是 booking 的网站，那通常就是你会经过筛选之后，他会指导你到 booking 的网站，然后最后现在大家做的事情是他们把 booking 的网站直接分给大家。对，
你说的不错，你说的不错。有一个人我有一个亲戚也是这样，他是直接用那个登记的网站进去的，他也没有75岁，他也是直接用那一个 booking 的直接打进去的，也是可以的。对。
Peter， 你是在 Overlake 打第一针吗
3月12号才要打。
哦，我是3月10号啊，可是我订3月10号的时候，我就预定第2剂了。
哎，这个事情就很奇怪。我那时候去订的时候，我跟你讲很奇怪哦。我一订完，2个日期出来，一个是第2针，一个第一针，对不对？2个都有。结果我看那个我第2针的日期啊，是在我第1针的前面2天。
我也是这样，可是我就不知道怎么 cancel 啊。
所以我就把那个第2针就 cancel 掉，然后我就回去找第2针，3个礼拜以后找不到了，那就没有了。
哦，
就是这样，可以 cancel 掉了。
所以你都还没有打就对了。
没有，12号呀，不晓得会不会变半马，我还不知道。
那个 Peter， 我知道是怎么回事。你上那个 Overlay 那个网站的时候呢，他有个问题，你没有回答到，因为他问你说，你这个针是第1针还是第2针？那你那时候没有回答，他就干脆2个针都给你了。因为我也是 make mistake， 然后后来但是我又重弄一次。
不是那个 mistake， 第2针在第1针前面就不对了。
不是，因为你有个问题，上网的时候有个问题你没有看到，他字写得很小，他问你说你打了这个是第1针还是第2针，你没有回答，他就2个针都帮你安排了。
哦 ，OK，I missed opportunity。
不是这样子的。
没有啊，我 schedule 的时候，他是给你第1针、第2针都有的嘛，你自己选的。
对。
对，
你选第1针以后，他就给你一个 confirmation， 那个有一行字就是告诉你，在21天以后，你自己再 schedule 一个第2针，他没有跟你做的，要你自己做。我也是这样子做了第1针、第2针。
对，我想是你早一点弄的时候，这些都是available，到后来那个第2针都 run out 没有。
哦，那陈医生，如果那个After 42天以后还订不到怎么办？
不要 complain， 不要抱怨，我到现在还没有打第1针呢。不要抱怨啊！
不过你是2月21号，
你要留给人家打第1针的，不要这么，你们只是再慢一点而已的。那还没有打的人先打，不要这么样的，还这么急啊！对，我要等到2月底才有第1针了，我都没有 complain， 你们已经打了还在 complain 什么？美国的就是这样，因为美国没有这种户籍制度，而且美国是很多的都是 commercialize， 哪一个机构拿到多了，他就赶快先给大家打，所以美国这个是有一点对我们东方人来说，常常美国怎么这么乱呢？这就是美国的一个制度，我们要适应。 所以
有一个乱
不要
的制度
这么早就担心了。我自己怎么样啊？还有很多人没有打啊，所以不要，你们已经打了就。尽量你再安排你的第二针，不要这边 complain 什么了，我都没有 complain，你们在 complain 什么？
如果超过了那个，因为我以前听陈医生说过，如果超过以后，就重新再来第一针、第二针了嘛，是不是啊？
没有，CDC 不是这样讲。
没有啦，他没有这样讲，只是没有保证啦。哦，所以呢，他现在已经开放到5到6个礼拜了，本来是3个礼拜嘛，但是实在是买不到药嘛，他药厂做不出来嘛，哦，所以他现在说好吧，那这样可以拖到5到6个礼拜，这个中间你总是可以约到了嘛，哦，这样。
那个5、6个礼拜药效会有变差。
第1剂跟第2剂的那个药剂不一样吧？
一定要一样，但是现在有一些人是搞不清楚打第1剂是打什么，那么去了以后他说好吧，那干脆给你打，至少有打了，哦，所以他现在有这一种情形。都说可以不同种，但是有情况，像有一些病人住在这一州，然后没多久转到别州去，他也搞不清楚是什么药，那么他那边就只好那里有的就打就是了。哦，
我听说那个医院，我听说医院都是辉瑞啊，那个药企要是 QFC 之类的那种都是蛮当然的，不是这样，他们不用冰。
因为冷藏的关系呀。
对。
那你要去同一个地方打，好像有的人是 walk in 的那种，就要注意了。
哎，你在 overlay 打是他到你要到里面，在 parking lot 的以后走到里面去打吗？
对 ，overlay 是 Pfizer 的。
对啊，你是走到他要走到那个 clinic 的里面去。
schedule 以后就到他那个。就是那个 education 那个 center 那里去打。
哦 ，OK，Parker 那个 education center，I see。OK，
就是park在那个蓝楼那里就是一样的。
North Garage。
对，那个你就按照平时你去看病这样子，你就走进去，他会告诉你怎么走。
OK， 好。
对，就在后面那一栋楼，不是在那个医生那栋楼。
OK， 那个我知道，那个 education center 我知道，有一个 auditorium 的。
很多。
可是他，对不起，我是
戴口罩，戴多一个口罩，根本就没有6尺的那个 distance。
哦，人那么多啊，
在那里都排队。
可是他如果告诉你是 drive through 的话呢，像那个 UW 的哈。或者是其他的地方，只要他跟你讲是 drive through， 你不用下车，但是你要穿短袖的。
哦，对，它比较好打。
对，然后呢，你最好再带一条那个什么毯子或者是棉被，因为你要在车子里面等15分或30分钟，啊，你又不能开暖气嘛，所以就是要准备一个毯子，或者是或者是温开水温一温这样子。还有，我请教你哈，有没有谁打了以后，他要给你验证哈？譬如说，哦，你说你是 Pfizer A 啊，你是什么的？哦，像我申请的时候，我是申请说我是跟我的小孩子住在一起哈。结果我去打的时候，他也没有给我验证啊，也没有说啊，你说你小孩子怎么样？我还把我儿子的 ID 把他 copy 还印出来，想说到时候要给他检查，他什么都没有给我检查。请问你们有谁？他检查你的东西吗？就你的资格，我觉得好像没有
没有的。我听说很多人呢都是年纪都不到，反正就怎么样就打上了。哎，那些人真是太差劲。
那他去 book 的时候，如果他根本不 check 你的话，他就可以随便说啊。我的意思是说那个，
我觉得他没查。
会不会已经在会不会已经在 database 了？他可以看，自己就可以看了。
哎，那个Lucy， 你那个 book 那个 UW Medicine 打那个疫苗的时候，他不是已经问了你一大堆的问题，对不对？
对，我不是在 UW， 我是在那个我们这里 Snohomish 的一个，我不知道它是一个那个什么，我 Edmond Community College， 因为就在我家旁边，所以我就 book 那个地方。
哦，是。
我也不知道他是 driver through 的。
他们那个 data 都是 state share， 他们连你的医生都能够 pull 你的资料出来看你的资料，所以他有没有 share 我不知道，不过他这个 information 是 statewide share 的。
不过确实没有错，你在 booking 的时候，他都会要你填那些资料，所以你必须要老实回答。那我想你老实回答他其实美国还是有一个机制的，因为你在老实回答的这些问题，如果你不老实回答，将来的话你就会如果有什么问题的要追究你的话，就从你回答的那些问题来追究你的不诚实，然后来追究你的那个什么你的责任这样子。所以在回答这些问题的时候，当然你是一定要诚实的这样子。
我也是很好奇，说你去打的时候，他有没有给你验证？因为他口口声声说你一定要 eligible 嘛，对不对？可是到时候他到底有没有给你验证？
没有，
没有是吧？
没有，我的没有，所以我很好奇其他的人有没有谁被要求验证。
我在 overlay 的时候，他就是叫我们把那个 file your face 那个就是 approve 你 eligibility 那个纸要拿给他，还有问你名字。
那就是验证了。
对啊，那就是验证啦。
对，他是问你。
然后我的朋友他是护士，
打到那个电脑上。
他去打针的时候要秀他的工作证，